Gentlemen, it's time to stop being domesticated and find your savage. Gentlemen, I think in this new era of men trying to work out what it is to be a man, we have the media saying that we can't be this certain this, we can't be a certain that, because this is too aggressive and this is too much manly and this is not soft enough and it's not in touch with our feelings. I think men have just opted out of the whole debate and just do what they're told in many cases. And they're not being true to themselves, and they're not helping their families, they're not helping themselves in that process. Now, I'm not saying that men should be disrespectful, I'm not saying men should be violent, I'm not saying men should be aggressive, that's far from what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that men need to tap into that elemental part of themselves and tap into what it means to be just that little bit savage. Now, that will be different for every man. It could just be challenging yourself to do an event or an activity. Like, I know for me, I was living in the city and look, I was going to work every day, doing the 9 to 5 thing, coming home, I was doing my family thing as well, which is great and I thoroughly enjoy that. But I wasn't testing myself. I knew that there was a part of me that wanted to just see what I was capable of doing, and that wasn't being met by going to work into an office and coming home back into the house and doing my chores around the house and playing my part of being part of the family, which is important. But at some point, as a man, you want to know how far you can go. Where's the limit? Can you go that little bit further? And this, I think, is tapping into that part of ourselves, which is part of the savage. If you go back to when we were prehistoric and we had to chase down our food or go out and gather or whatever is, whichever way you want to eat, there were challenges thrown at us, whether it's going to be from the weather, whether it's going to be from other people, whether it's going to be from animals that potentially could be dangerous to us. So one way that I did, and I think is a very resourceful way, is that I set myself a target. I actually registered to run a marathon. Now, I'd never run that far before, I've never run a half marathon before, so it was a challenge. It was something that's going to test me. So this is just a simple way of getting out there. So also by registering for the event, it put a deadline to when this is going to happen. It wasn't say one day I'm going to run a marathon. It was actually on a day. It had a date. I'd paid my money and I'd registered. It was probably a little bit closer than I had planned, so I think I gave myself 13 weeks to train for it. And I probably hadn't run as far as I thought I had run in the lead up to that moment in time. So I was probably running about 2 to 3 Ks, a couple of times a week, as opposed to the 5 that I probably thought I was really running. So a level of reality hit. But the thing is that it forced me to get out of my comfort zone. It forced me to test what I was capable of. And the fact is, did the marathon, really happy with the result. I'm still alive. And it didn't kill me, which is, I think, a lot of people do. We just play it safe. We do our thing because we don't want to step outside the box. We don't want to see how much pain and suffering we can actually put ourselves through. Now, I'm not talking about, unnecessarily, or stuff that's going to kill you or do permanent damage. None of the stuff that I did has caused any permanent damage. Sure, it was uncomfortable. Sure, I didn't like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning on a cold winter's wet day and going for a run before work. But I did, because I knew that if I didn't take that hurt and that suffering in the training, on the day I was going to be found out and I was going to come up short, and I was going to be in a lot of suffering and a lot of pain on the day, which could potentially be dangerous because I was attempting to run a marathon. And 42 Ks is not something to sneeze at. It can be dangerous. And I think this is where that element of danger comes into it. Because if you don't do the training, if you don't prepare yourself, it can be actually very dangerous. You could have a heart attack. There's just so many other things that you can dehydrate. There are a lot of things that can go wrong still in an organised event. So I'm not saying that you need to go run a marathon, but this is just one example. You might want to go for a hike, get a couple of mates, and spend some time with men, challenge yourself, going for a long hike. I have a good mate that every year he gets together with a group of friends, and they do a multi-day hike. Just whatever they need is in their backpack. And that's a challenge. They challenge themselves to be prepared, do the work, because you need to prepare for all this sort of stuff. You can't just one day wake up and decide, hey, look, I'm going to go for a hike for 5 days, having never done any preparation, not knowing anything about backpacks, your camping equipment, all that sort of stuff. So you need to get a new skill set. You need to learn how to prepare yourself and tap into and learn about what's going on in nature, knowing when a storm is coming through and what that storm front looks like and what it's going to mean to you with your pack and your food, and when to set up camp, when the dark is coming in, how long it takes to get dark. There's so many different factors that you can do and tap into just to get out there and tap into that savage. Now, on a day-to-day basis, you might go, well, look, what can I do day-to-day? Well, sometimes it might just be simply driving with your car window down. Heaven forbid. Because most of us tend to live in these air-conditioned homes, and we walk out to our garage, we hop into our air-conditioned cars, and we won't open the door ourselves because we got a remote. Boop, boop. The garage door goes up, we roll out. We haven't left our artificial environmental bubble. Some people even have electric gates that open their gates for those that have gates on their houses. So then they go to their car park, at work, they hop in the elevator, they go to whatever floor they are on a building, and then they work in an air-conditioned office all day. So the biggest thrill, the biggest danger might be just driving with your window down, getting some fresh air. Heaven forbid. But look, at least that's a start. Get some fresh air, get out into nature, test yourself. Guys, I think it's really important that you tap into this part of you that is quite elemental and embrace it. Don't be ashamed of it. There's nothing to be ashamed of tapping into learning a new skill. It might be joining up a local karate class or jiu-jitsu class and learning how to fight. One of the things that bullies will tap into is people that don't know how to defend themselves. And as a man, I think you need to get some skills in that space to protect your family, even to protect yourself, but more importantly, protect your family. And I bring up this issue about bullies and attacks and tapping into the savage, because they all sort of start to interweave each other to create that tapestry that I call life. Because people will pick on other people who they think are an easy target. If you get some skills about you, I'm not saying you need to go out and get into fights or get into some competition and become an MMA fighter or anything like that. Just saying, get some skills, get some awareness about you. Because a bully won't pick on someone that they think is going to hurt them back. And quite often, they can tell by the way you walk, the way you hold yourself, how much confidence you have in that area. And they won't come near you or your family when they know that potentially there's some pain coming their way. I'm not saying you need to go out and get into fights. Gentlemen, I am not saying that at all. But get some skills and know how to look after you and your family. And this is all about tapping into that savage. It's part of the elemental part of who we are as men, as protectors, as providers. Tap into your savage and embrace it. I'm out.